At 81, Ben Kingsley is no longer interested in smoothing edges or protecting illusions. For decades, the public saw discipline, grace, and control. What they rarely saw were the moments when those values were tested, the rooms where respect slipped, where preparation failed, where ego outweighed craft. Kingsley did not react publicly when lines were crossed. He remembered instead, quietly, precisely, with nothing left to prove. Those memories no longer stay sealed. This video opens 6 chapters involving people whose behavior collided with the standards Kingsley lived by throughout his career. And by the time the final name is revealed, the idea of Hollywood professionalism may look very different. Number 6, Sir Roger Moore, the title corrector. To the public, Roger Moore was ease personified, polite, charming, and seemingly untouched by ego. He moved through fame as if it weighed nothing. That image was not accidental, it was a standard he believed actors should live by. The tension with Ben Kingsley did not begin on a set, it began with a poster. In 2006, Lucky Number 11 opened in British cinemas. The design was restrained and stylish, but one detail drew attention immediately. Kingsley's name did not appear as Ben Kingsley, it appeared as Sir Ben Kingsley. Large, formal, impossible to ignore. Moore noticed at once. Born in 1927 in Stockwell, London, Moore had spent decades navigating status without leaning on it. His rise from television star to global icon taught him how fragile respect could be once ceremony entered the room. Titles, in his view, were earned in silence and worn lightly, if at all. The poster suggested something else. Quiet conversations followed, then public ones. Lord Putnam dismissed the choice outright, saying Kingsley should simply be billed as Ben. No elevation, no separation, just the work. Moore went further, asked about the billing. He did not hedge or soften. He called the use of the title pretentious bollocks. The words were not thrown, they were placed. To Moore, this was not about rivalry or envy. It was about tone, about how recognition should stop at the door once the camera stopped rolling. He pointed to his own habits. Moore avoided being called sir whenever possible. He joked it away. He believed titles created distance where collaboration demanded equality, especially among actors. From Moore's perspective, the poster did not signal pride. It signaled separation, as if Kingsley were stepping into a roll-off screen, one that placed him above his peers. Kingsley later addressed it carefully. He said he had been surprised by the billing. He called it a marketing decision he had not requested. He made clear the knighthood mattered to him privately, not professionally, but for Moore, intent no longer mattered. In his world, respect was never announced. It was earned quietly over time, and once that balance shifted even slightly, the damage was done. That tension around formality followed Kingsley onto his next set, where a simple question of how to address him would shape an entire working relationship. Number 5, Penelope Cruz, the formality bearer. On screen, chemistry is often described as ease, comfort, the sense that two actors move toward each other without resistance. On Elegy, that ease did not come naturally. Ben Kingsley arrived carrying decades of discipline. His process was quiet, controlled, and formal, not for display, but by habit. Penelope Cruz arrived with respect and professionalism, but also caution. Early in the shoot, that caution attached itself to something small and refused to loosen its grip. Kingsley had been knighted. The title followed him onto the set. Born in 1974 in Alcobendas, Spain, Cruz had risen quickly from Spanish cinema to international recognition. She was known for warmth, openness, and emotional accessibility in her work, but she was also careful, especially around hierarchy, especially on unfamiliar ground. Someone told her she should address Kingsley as Sir Ben. No explanation, no discussion, just instruction. The atmosphere shifted quietly. Cruz hesitated when she spoke. At first, she avoided his name altogether. Simple greetings replaced direct address. It was not fear, it was restraint. Then came the moment that settled the tone. She said it once. Sir Ben. Not playfully, not comfortably. The words landed and stayed. No one corrected her. No one laughed it off. Kingsley did not stop her. He did not redirect the moment. He accepted the formality and returned to the work. For him, precision mattered. Distance, when useful, was part of professionalism. The title remained for the rest of the shoot, not as a joke, as a boundary. There was no argument, no visible conflict, but the relationship never relaxed. Respect remained intact, yet ease never arrived. Two professionals professionals sharing scenes, separated by a line neither chose to erase. That distance shaped the rhythm of their work. Polite, controlled, carefully measured. If formality created quiet separation with crews, the next name on this list introduced a far more unsettling tension, one built not on titles, but on presence alone. If you want to follow more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Number 4. Anthony Hopkins, the silent authority. When Ben Kingsley later spoke about acting opposite Anthony Hopkins, he did not soften the reaction. He used one word: terrifying. The feeling arrived early during their first private scenes together. Kingsley felt excitement mixed with unease, not fear in a personal sense, something colder, something professional. Hopkins did not dominate with volume or cruelty, he dominated with stillness. Born in 1937 in Port Talbot, Wales, Hopkins had built his reputation on absolute preparation. His rise through theater and film was marked by control, precision, and an ability to arrive fully formed. By the time cameras rolled, he was already finished. Kingsley described watching him as unsettling, not because Hopkins was doing too much, because he was doing nothing extra at all. He stood still, focused, contained. The silence around him tightened, and the room adjusted to his rhythm without a word being spoken. That presence altered the working space. When Hopkins stepped into a scene, the margin for error narrowed. Timing mattered more. Choices carried weight. Even veteran actors felt the pressure sharpen. Hopkins' process explained the effect. He rehearsed relentlessly. He studied scripts until the lines stopped sounding practiced and began sounding lived. When the camera started, he did not search or adapt. He arrived complete. For Kingsley, who preferred to build energy through exchange and movement, that completeness created distance. It formed an invisible wall between two approaches, two masters working from different internal clocks. There was no argument, no confrontation, but the relationship never settled into ease. Respect remained. Comfort did not. In that gap between their rhythms, tension formed quietly and stayed there. If intensity without warmth unsettled Kingsley, the next name on this list introduced a different friction altogether, one shaped not by presence, but by temperament. Number 3. Morgan Freeman, the calm counterpoint. When Lucky No. 11 reached theaters in 2006, Morgan Freeman spoke about Ben Kingsley in a way that stood apart from the usual praise cycle. There was no admiration on display, no warmth offered for the cameras, just a plain assessment delivered without decoration. Freeman called Kingsley a very intense actor. He was careful to clarify that the intensity lived in the work, not in the man. Even so, the distinction mattered. On set, the contrast was visible. Born in 1937 in Memphis, Tennessee, Freeman had built his career on control without strain. His rise was marked by steadiness, patience, and an ability to switch on only when needed. Kingsley worked differently. He remained locked in between takes. Focus never loosened. The role stayed with him. Freeman operated on the opposite rhythm. When the camera rolled, he was fully present. When it stopped, he stepped back into himself. Two respected methods, two temperaments sharing the same space. In a later profile, Freeman spoke about collaboration with other actors, especially veterans. He praised strong roles and reliable partners. Then his tone shifted slightly. He joked that when working around actors who carry their roles constantly, he has to slow himself down and remind himself of his own lines. The comment landed lightly, but the message was clear. Intensity carries weight. It presses on everyone in the room. Then came the billing issue. For the film, Kingsley was credited as Sir Ben Kingsley, the title appearing prominently. In Hollywood, that choice is rare. Most knighted actors leave the honor off screen. The decision stirred quiet. Discussion across the industry. Some found it unnecessary, others found it distancing. Freeman was never publicly attached to the criticism. There is no record of objection, no sign of resentment. The tension belonged to perception, not personal conflict. On screen, however, the contrast sharpened. Freeman played a crime boss. Kingsley played a rabbi turned criminal. Former allies, now adversaries. Their shared history sat beneath every exchange, and both men leaned into it. Off camera, the distance remained professional and unspoken. Two actors doing the work, never quite aligning in temperament. Not every fracture forms under studio lights. Some take shape in quieter spaces where questions linger, control is tested, and politeness no longer protects the moment that comes next. Number 2, Zoe Williams, the persona unmasker. When Ben Kingsley sat down with the Guardian, the setting was meant to be controlled. A small table, a scheduled press slot, a routine he had repeated for decades. He began the way he usually did, with long long answers shaped carefully and delivered with confidence. He spoke as if the direction of the conversation had already been agreed upon. Zoe Williams did not accept that direction. Born in 1970 in London, Williams had built her reputation on precision and persistence rather than deference. To readers, she was known for sharp observation and a refusal to accept polished narratives at face value. In that room, she listened closely, then she paused. Instead of nodding along, she pointed out something few interviewers ever say aloud. These stories had been told before, many times. The same language, the same angles, the same rehearsed reflections. What was meant to sound thoughtful now sounded familiar. That was the turning point. Kingsley stiffened, the warmth dropped from his voice. When Williams pushed further and raised a project tied to public criticism, he broke the rhythm completely. "Sorry, what are you talking about?" The words were sharp, dismissive, not confused, but offended. The tone suggested the question itself had crossed a boundary. The room changed. This was no longer a routine interview. It became a struggle over control. Kingsley's answers grew shorter and more guarded. His posture closed. Each response worked less to explain and more to end the line of questioning. What unsettled him was not the topic. It was being told that his public image had become predictable. Williams did not retreat. She continued, not to provoke, but to reach something unscripted. In doing so, she exposed the gap between a carefully maintained persona and a journalist unwilling to play along. It was not cruelty, it was friction, and Kingsley had not prepared for it. The exchange spread quickly. Commentators described it as uneasy and strained, not because of insults, but because of resistance. An actor known for control had lost it, if only slightly, enough for observers to notice. By the end, no one needed to ask whether he disliked the interview. The answers made that clear. The silence afterwards said even more. That moment revealed how central control is to Kingsley's sense of order. But the final entry on this list unfolded in a far more public space, with bright lights, a live audience, and no way to step back once the moment arrived. Number 1, Lorraine Kelly, the destroyer of ease. When people search for a hidden feud between Sir Ben Kingsley and Lorraine Kelly, they usually expect something private. A phone call, a backstage remark, something quietly exchanged and never confirmed. What they find instead is public, bright studio lights, live television, no room to soften the moment once it happens. The setting is ordinary. A daytime talk show, warm colors, an audience trained to smile on cue. Lorraine Kelly does what she has done for decades. She keeps the tone light, conversational, moving forward. The format depends on charm. Ease is the currency. Kingsley enters carrying something heavier. Born in 1943 in Sneinton, Yorkshire, he built his career on stage discipline and control. Long pauses, careful speech, thought before delivery. He does not fill silence to reassure others. He waits. He considers. On that sofa, those instincts do not blend with the rhythm of the show. As the interview unfolds, the gap widens. Kelly leans into familiarity. Kingsley responds briefly. His brow tightens. His voice remains clipped. There is no outburst, no raised volume, just restraint meeting cheer with neither giving way. Viewers notice immediately. The pauses stretch, the replies shorten. The absence of banter becomes the story. In a space designed for effortless exchange, his stillness reads as resistance. Cameras capture every second. Online clips later magnify those seconds into a narrative. Headlines follow. Awkward moment. Heated exchange. The language does most of the work. The footage barely needs interpretation. What disappears in the noise is context. Kingsley has always treated interviews as an extension of the work, not a performance slot. He values silence. He thinks before speaking. That approach suits film festivals and long-form conversations. Morning television runs on a different clock. There is no evidence of anger toward Kelly, no insult, no rejection, only a refusal to adjust his manner to a format that demands lightness. By the time the clip finishes circulating, judgment has already settled, not on what was said, but on what was withheld, and in that absence, the illusion of ease finally breaks.